Hi family, my name is Paul DeLeo. I'm a recovered alcoholic.
Hey, Paul.
By the grace of God and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have not found it necessary to take a drink since September 1st of 2002. And that's truly a miracle. And before we start, I want to thank our other speakers, Frank, Joe, my wife Karina, Mike, thank you and the group for the invitation, even though we were second choice. So we're good with that. You know, God's plan's always better than yours, Mike. But it is an honor and a privilege to be here. We've been privileged to speak at the group before, my wife and I. And it's great to see people who are living in the sunlight of the Spirit. That's what we are. I got a half hour. What I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to try and tell you for about 5 minutes what I was like. Then for about 15 minutes, share my experience with the 12 steps. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm like today after going through that process. Because that's what this is all about. One of our co-founders made a statement. Dr. Bob made this statement. I think it was in 1948. He said the sole purpose of the AA meeting is the teaching and practice of the 12 steps. That's it. There is no other purpose. We're not here to chat. We're not here to talk about our problems. My first teacher told me if you got problems, he says, bring them to the 20/20 club. Come 20 minutes early, stay 20 minutes late, find someone to talk to. This hour belongs to God and the steps. That's what AA is about. People sit in rooms and they say, well, I love AA, but I don't get the spiritual part. Well, there is no spiritual part. It's this 12-step spiritual program. There is no other part. That's it. That's all we got. And I'm probably going to get a lot of people upset, and that's okay. I didn't come here to make friends. My wife does that. Kind and loving is right there. It's not right here. I'm a man who speaks with desperation of a drowning man. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I did not come here to get sober. God saw fit to separate me from alcohol. If you would have told me a day before I got here that I needed help, I would have told you were nuts. I thought I was perfect. If you would have asked me how I was, good, fine. But truthfully, like now, looking back, see, whatever I say, it's in hindsight. Looking back, I was living in an abandonminium. I had an abandoned basement apartment that they were thrown out of because it was illegal. But I had a key, so I was good. I would go to my mom's house to steal food at 2 a.m. on my roller skates because I sold my bicycle to get on. But I was good. I was good. I'm good. And the truth is, it's funny, but people talk about, you were in denial. No, denial is a river in Egypt. I was not in denial. I was in a delusion because I really believed that I was okay. I'm going to say something that people might understand and might not. I did not have a problem with alcohol. I do not have a problem with alcohol. Never had a problem with alcohol. If you have a problem with alcohol, you're probably a problem drinker, and stop drinking, you'll be fine. So I have a problem without alcohol. It's when I stop drinking that my problem starts. I stop drinking, I become restless, irritable, discontent, prey to misery and depression, full of remorse and self-pity. And a drink sounds like a really good idea. Because the minute I touch the glass, I go, because I can breathe again. I have alcoholism. I had it way before I drank. When I was young, wherever I was, I wanted to be somewhere else. When I got there, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go somewhere else. Whoever I was with, I wanted to be with someone else. And when I got with them, I didn't want to be with them anymore. Whatever party I was at got boring. When I went to the next party, I didn't want to be there. It just didn't fit. And alcohol made that all okay. Thank God for alcohol. Alcohol was never a problem. Alcohol was a solution. And Bill Wilson talks about that. He said he discovered liquor. First off, only alcoholics discover liquor. Regular people have a drink. Alcoholics discover liquor because it's a discovery. It was my first spiritual awakening. I drank socially for 10 years, and then I turned 13. I bought a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine, and I had my first spiritual awakening. It was dance lessons in a bottle, make-out lessons in a bottle. Everything I needed was there. It taught me how to do everything, and it ran my life. See, I've come to learn anything I say from here, it's in hindsight. I didn't know any of this while I was out there or even when I came here. What I've come to learn is I can either be driven by fear or guided by God. Those are my options. When I got here, I was driven by fear. That's no longer my story. I'm guided by God today. Fear cannot drive me anymore. It just can't. God will overcome fear at any time. So I drank a lot. It didn't go well. I'm 13 years old. I'm in the 8th grade. I get beat up by a 6th grader. I'm in Catholic school. The other 8th graders didn't like that. They taught me how to fight. And then I almost killed the 6th grader. And I got him on the floor, and I'm beating him against a metal grating, and the nun picks me up by the hair, slaps me, so I punched her in the mouth. She hits the floor. The priest comes, puts me in a headlock, says, "You're going to go to hell for that." And they put me in the principal's office with a dunce cap back in the 60s. And I said, "This is not happening. I'm not going to." So the next day, I didn't go back to school. That night, I had my friend's brother buy me a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine, put it in my school bag, sat in the back seat in the corner of the bus, and I drank Boone's Farm until I blacked out. They found me in the bus depot at 4:30, and they called my parents, and I got suspended, and it was the greatest day of my life. It was the greatest day of my life. And it's never gotten that good again. It was the greatest day. My first spiritual awakening. And the truth of the matter is I lived on a reputation that didn't belong to me. After that, the whole school was afraid of me. I was a nutty guy. I was beating up the bullies. And I started living on this reputation. And I didn't start drinking every day. Drinking was a lot of fun for me for a long time. I got punished for that. I got sent to an all-boys high school. That didn't go well. And, I would drink when I could. I'd sneak bottles into the schoolyard and hang out with the seniors when I was a freshman because I would sneak those bottles in. And everybody loved me. I was the second smallest kid in the school. There was one little black kid, Alfonso, that was smaller than me. And me and him were the two biggest troublemakers in the school. It was 1969. There was race riots going on, Vietnam. We were protesting, and we were having a blast, getting drunk every day. And it was a lot of fun. There were no real consequences yet. As I got older, it started to become, it was casual. It was the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays. Then it became Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then they started opening clubs on Wednesday, so it became Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, why skip Thursday? So we started drinking on Thursday, and then it got to the point where if I was awake, I was drinking. I didn't go to sleep anymore. I passed out and came to. There would be blank spots that would last for days. And I thought I was just having fun. And that went on for a long time. I started drinking at 13. I didn't come to Alcoholism until I was 47 years old. So what happened was, it was actually August 30th, and I went on a binge. I was drinking, and these aren't wrinkles. These are Venetian blind marks on my head. Some of you guys know, right? So what happened was, I'm drunk and I'm high, and I got to go to work in an hour because I was going to only have one, and then I called Flacco, and I'll have another one, and then it was 4 a.m, and they're picking me up at 6. So I go to work with these guys, and I didn't know it then, but I found they were all in AA. They were my brother's friends. He had 9 years sober when I got here. So we go to work, and they tell me, "You're a fun guy." Said guy Richie, he says, "Me and George are going camping this weekend with 3 girls." Now I'm pretty good at math. There was an extra girl. So I said, "Well, I'll go with you." No, I didn't know that they were all sober. So they said, "Well, meet us tonight. We're going to meet on Avenue O." And I knew what it was, the clubhouse. My brother got sober there. So they said, "Well, we'll pick you up." And they came, they picked me up, and we went to AA, and I caught my first resentment because the girls didn't show up. So I had one resentment. I was sober 5 hours. And his sponsor showed up, told him he needed another meeting. So they took me to Staten Island. Now, I didn't know there were other meetings because the clubhouse had 31 meetings a week. I thought that was AA. I didn't know that there were meetings everywhere. So we go to another clubhouse in Staten Island, and young kids sitting at the desk. They didn't have a podium. And he's telling about how he hit a nun. And he got drunk on a bus. And I'm like, I can't believe back that they told him about me. And I got resentment number 2. I'm sober 6 hours. And I'm getting twisted. And they said, "Paul, we don't even know him." So after the meeting, I spoke to him. And now, I didn't know this then. I know this now. That was God just getting my attention. Because I said, maybe I should see what this AA thing is about. Because this kid sounds a lot like me. But yet he's not drinking. And he seems to be having a good time. See, I could not drink, but I was miserable. Or I could be having a good time, but I had to be drinking. I couldn't do both at the same time, and he was. So I started going to a lot of meetings. What I want to tell you is don't believe everything you hear from a podium, because a lot of it's not true. If I can't back up what I say to you with a page from this book, don't believe me. Because I heard them say, just don't drink, go to meetings. And meeting makers make it. And if you didn't drink today, you're a winner. Well, no, that's really true. That's not my experience. Not all meeting makers make it. Some do, some don't. Meeting makers that do the work make it. If you didn't drink today, but you stole from your boss, you beat up your wife, and you mugged an old lady, you're just a loser that didn't drink today. You're not a winner because you didn't drink today. I'm sorry, that's just not true. And this is what they're telling me. So, Karina touched on it. I thought that the goal was to not drink and go to a lot of meetings. So I'm going to 6 meetings a day. On a bad day, I do 4. On a good day, I do 6. One day I did 7. But I counted the midnight for 2 days. So I don't know. But the truth of the matter is I got 105 days, 400 meetings, and I'm sitting in my home group contemplating suicide. What happens to me, see, not drinking doesn't treat alcoholism. Drinking treats alcoholism. So I haven't had a drink in 105 days. I am now living with untreated alcoholism. And I'm getting worse. I'm not getting better. I'm getting worse. The voices are getting louder. The resentments are getting larger. Fear of people in economic insecurity is getting worse. It doesn't get better. If you stop drinking and everything's great, God bless you. Go home. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Just don't drink and stay home. Why don't drink and go to meetings? If you cannot drink, if you have the power to pull that off, what are you doing here? I didn't understand that. No one told me that. See, I had a teacher that day that stepped into my life. I had 105 days and shared that I wanted to commit suicide. A young man grabbed me, and he opened up his book, and he said, here, read this. And he handed me page 45, and he said, read the lack of power. That was our dilemma. I said, wait a minute, I thought alcohol was my problem. He said, how long has it been since you had a drink? I said, 105 days. He said, how do you feel? I said, I feel like shit. He said, well, then obviously alcohol is not the problem. And I was like, oh. And it made sense. And I said, oh my God, what do I have to do? And he said, funny you should ask. He opened up his book again to page 20. He said, if you're an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you might already be asking, what do I have to do? I was like, oh shit. How did they know I was going to say that? And he said, well, they wrote the book for you. See, and if you're anything like me, they wrote this book for you. And I didn't get that. And I said to him, oh my God, what do I have to do? And he said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? He said, well, read the next line. And the next line in the book says, we will show you what we have done. See, I don't know what any one of you need to do to get sober or stay sober. I know what I did and what I continue to do. So that's what I'm going to try and share with you in the next 10 minutes. We discussed steps 1 and 2. My experience has changed over the years. Step 1 doesn't mean I can't drink no matter what. That's what I thought it meant. It means I'm going to drink no matter what. The unmanageability doesn't mean that I'm going to get arrested and get in car accidents. It means that my life is unmanageable with or without a drink. Craziest thing I've ever done, I've done sober. I picked up another drink, thinking it would be different this time. And he explained that to me. We looked back at my life, and I was able to compare my life to what the book was saying, and it was real. Step 2 has changed for me. What my understanding of step 2 means today, step 2 is not a step that you do. You can't do step 2. Step 2 tells me what happened to them when they did the rest of the steps. We came to believe that a power greater than us could restore us to sanity because they had been restored. So it's a destination. It's not something you do. It's step 2. That's just not my experience. It happened to me at step 10 when I got restored to sanity. But what we did was we read step 3. And step 3 was a decision. And he said, well, are you willing to make a decision? Are you willing to go to any lengths? I said, yes. He said, well, what does willing mean? I said, it means I'm willing. He said, what does that mean? And I didn't know. He said, if you tell me you're willing, it means you're going to do what the book asks you to do. Whether you believe it or not, like it or not, think it's a good idea, want to do it or not. And I was contemplating suicide a couple of hours ago. Now I'm contemplating being willing. It was a thought. I had to think about it for a minute. But I decided I didn't want to die. And I said, all right, I'll go to any lengths. And he made me write a note in my book. Are you willing to go to any lengths, even though you don't know what any lengths might be? And I just didn't want to die anymore. He said, we knelt down. I said a third step prayer right there, 40 minutes after we started talking. And I got up off my knees and I said, I did the third step. He said, no, you did the third step prayer. Slow down. He said, the third step is a decision. He says, I said, well, isn't it? No. He said, Paul, if we decide to go to Florida, we'll never get there. And I said, why not? He said, because you got to call the airline, buy a ticket, pack a suitcase, go to the airport and get on the plane. Otherwise, you just thought about going to Florida. To make a decision requires action. So if I don't take the actions in steps 4 to 9, I didn't do step 3. I only thought about it. So the only way I can do step 3 is by completing 4 to 9. And I didn't get that. So I said, all right, I guess I'm going to write a 4th step. And he explained how to do that because I didn't want to write it because I didn't want to see how bad I was. And he said, well, we don't have to see what you were. We know what you were. You were an alcoholic. We're going to try to see what you weren't. And I didn't understand. I said, what I wasn't. And he said, well, were you a good son? Were you a good brother? Oh. Were you a good friend? Oh. Were you a good employee? And he kept on going. You get the idea. And he said, well, God intended you to be all of those things. Let's see why you couldn't be what God intended you to be. That's why we do a 4th step. And I started to write. And I got to see how my selfishness, my dishonesty, and my fear prevented me from becoming what God intended me to be. I am not going to do a whole 4th step deal, but I am going to say this. For some reason, AA has gotten a little veered off course with this 4-column inventory and what was your part. And that's not part of Alcoholics Anonymous. There is never one sentence, one word in this book that says what was your part. Because no one else has a part in my inventory. It's my inventory. What the book says is we set aside the wrongs others have done us. So forget about the inventory. And we resolutely look for our own mistakes. What were the mistakes I made with my mom? Forget about what my mom did to me. I stole from her. I lied to her. I disrespected her. I abused her. I worried. I made a lot of mistakes with my mom. She should have thrown me out 10 years earlier. But the truth is, I was writing what was my part for years. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. Because everything I did moved me to another place, which moved me to another place, till I had 6 years and I got a new teacher, and he showed me that there is no such thing as what was my part. My first inventory, I wrote it on a notebook, I called Intergroup and shared it with a guy on the phone. Was that wrong? I don't think so. I'm still here. I'm still here. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. Either you're doing it or you're not. In Bill's story, it says, my friend emphasized the necessity, practice the principles all my affairs, particularly imperative to work with others as he had worked with me. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Work with others the way your sponsor worked with you. God's got the rest. So I shared a 5th step with him. I'm not going to do the fear and sex inventory because there really isn't a fear inventory. It says we reviewed our fears, we put them on paper, and it gives me an answer. Why did we have them? Wasn't it because self-reliance failed? And then it gives me a prayer. Really simple. I don't know where they came up with 5-column inventory for fear. It's not in our book. Somebody thought it was a good idea. They started writing it, and God bless you if you're doing it. I'm not here to change your hat. God bless you, but it's not in our book. And the sex inventory has nothing to do with sex. It's on page 69. That's a coincidence, but not in the original book. It's not. I think somebody planned that. I'm not sure. But the deal is, what the question is, it says, now about sex, it says we reviewed our conduct over the years past. And there's 9 questions. There's no columns. There's 9 questions. And the deal is, I always use one example. There was a girl, Marie, that I was trying to hook up with, and she wanted nothing to do with me. But her brother, he was a pretty wacky kid, and I didn't really like him, but I became friends with him. So I lied to him. I disrespected him. I abused this kid, but I made him think I liked him. I became his friend. So that he'd invite me to his house. I'd hang out with his sister, going to pool parties with him. His sister, his family met me. Once I got his sister, I dumped him like a rock. Robert went on my sex inventory. Because I was dishonest. I was inconsiderate. I was selfish. I used Robert to try to get sex from his sister. Robert, it's not about sex. And I didn't see that until I had almost 7 years. And I got a new teacher. Again, no right way or wrong way. But my experience is the closer I stay to what the book says, the easier it is. So I sat quietly for an hour after I shared all this stuff with my sponsor. And one of my favorite sentences, in right after step 5, it says, If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. But I'm sitting alone for the hour. So our satisfaction is me and God. Not me and my sponsor, not me and my home group. My personal belief, this is not AA, is that AA has become way too sponsor reliant. Everybody realizes, like 13 years, I don't do nothing when I check on my sponsor. Why? Who's your sponsor? I mean, does he or she walk on water? I don't get it. Why are you checking with your sponsor? Why aren't we relying on God? See, it says we get our satisfaction. Step 5, to promise to say this is the beginning of the spiritual experience. This is the beginning. This is where I got to start relying more on God, less on my sponsor. Please don't say I didn't say that you don't need a sponsor. What I'm saying is you can't rely on your sponsor. It's just a human power. Sponsor is a teacher. It's good. Use them to the best of your. It says that we should always seek counsel, but we let God be the final judge. Somehow that got pushed to the side. I don't understand how. So what happens is I share it with him. I go home for the hour. Step 6 says when ready, we're entirely ready to have God remove these things. How do I show God that I'm ready to have him remove it? God's not a genie. He's not going to tap me with a wand and make me better. God, I'm dishonest. Make me honest. Nothing happened. I tried that. But what happens is in 6, I've come to learn my job is to practice the opposite of my defects. This book is about practices and disciplines. The only way to be disciplined, we let God discipline us in the way we just outlined. So I got to ask God, help me to be honest and try to do some honest acts. I'm selfish. God, help me to be selfless. My old sponsor used to tell us we had quarters back in the day for the meters. We used to have to go downstairs and look for expired meters and put quarters in. And you couldn't tell nobody. If you told somebody, it didn't count. Because I can't get credit. The Father do it, the work. And I start practicing the opposite. And 7, I say a prayer. At the end of the 7-step prayer, it says amen. It says we have then completed step 7. And I hear people saying, well, I'm working on my 7-step. How? What are you doing? What are you doing? You can remove defects? Come and see me. I need help. God's going to remove the defect. Step 7 is a prayer. It's a prayer. I don't care if you say it once or 1,000 times, but it's just a prayer. And I had to learn why I prayed. I don't pray so God can hear my prayers. God knows the prayers I'm going to say tonight. Before I drew my first breath, I pray so I can be reminded of the prayer. God doesn't need to be. It's me that has to remember. And I get up off my knees from step 7 and I go into 8 and 9. It says we had a list. We made it when we took inventory. Oh, I shouldn't have burned that 4th step. That was a dumb mistake. Because I hear people burning their 4th steps all the time. Try and follow the directions. So I go to my 4th step and I get the people that I harmed from my mistakes. Not from what was my part. From my mistakes, I get to see the people I harmed. And then from my sex inventory, I get to see the people I harmed. And then I had to make another little list. We call it back where I'm from, harms other than. The kid next door, I climbed over the fence and stole his bike 3 times, and I sold it to get high. And you know what? I have no resentment, no sex, but I harmed him. He had to go on another list. I owed him an amends. Tony around the corner in the candy store, loved the guy, but I stole from him. I owed him an amends. So we put these names on. And then I had to learn what it meant to make an amends. Step 8 is a full step. I had to write the list and then become willing. I got free once I was willing to make amends. I didn't have to make amends to get free. It was in my willingness to make them that I was set free. And then in 9, we go out and we make these amends. What is an amends? See, I was confused. I thought I was to fix things. That's to mend. To amend is to change. If I have not changed, I have no right making an amends. If I am the same person, but I'm not drinking, I'm just making an apology. Sorry, I took your $100. Here it is back. And next week I steal 100 from someone else. That was an apology. That was not an amends. To make an amends means I need to be a changed person. So I start making these amends and I get all these great 9-step promises. At the end of those promises, well, actually at the beginning is you'll know a new freedom and a new happiness. We get freer and happier. And then at the end it says, they will always materialize if you work for them. They're not a gift. Sobriety is not a gift. I hear people don't thank God for the gift of sobriety. Why would God give me the gift of sobriety and not the rest of his children? That's not a God I want anything to do with. In our book, and again, I'm going to always back up what I say with the book, on page 14, it says, simple but not easy. A price must be paid. So if you got to pay a price, it's not a gift. I have paid the price. Tells me what the price is. It says it meant the destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. So what that means, my life's none of my business. I get up in the morning and I ask God, what can I do for him today? Because I had to learn to pray differently. And I'll talk about that in a minute. It's step 11. So I make the amends. It says this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we write every night. Oh no, it doesn't say that. For some reason they told me I got to do step 10 every night. Step 10 is not about at night. Step 10 says we should continue this as we go along. Step 10 is about right now. What should I continue? It says continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Continue to watch. Watch being a key word. I never hear anyone talk about it. Watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. When they crop up, ask God at once. So it's about as we go along and at once. That's when you do step 10. And why would I watch for selfishness? So I can be selfish? I watch for selfishness and dishonesty same way I watch for potholes. I try to avoid them. I go to a meeting and I park my car and I'm running because I'm late, of course. And I look and the car is taking 2 parking spots. Do I leave it there? Or do I go back to the car and back up so someone else can park? That's a 10th step. Someone hands me change of a 20 when I gave them 10. Do I keep the $10 and write about it tonight? Or do I say, excuse me, you've given me too much change and return the $10? That's a 10th step. If we do the 10th step properly, we won't be writing so much at night. That's my experience. Step 11 asks me to write at night. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. It says better men than us are using it. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. Well, what's the proper attitude? Yeah, my teacher said to me, well, how's your prayer life? I said, well, first thing I do is get up and I ask God, please keep me sober today. And he said, why? Who are you? Who are you? Why should God keep you sober today? Does God work for you? I'm like, He said, Paul, you're supposed to be working for God. Maybe you should try asking God what you could do for him instead of telling him what you think he should do for you. And I had to learn a new attitude. And I had to work at it. And today, that's how my prayer life is. My life is none of my business. I have a life of invitation. That's why I'm here. This is invitation. I didn't get invited to a lot of places. But I have a life of invitation today. The book says in step 11, it starts with when we retire at night. We constructively review our day. Were we selfish, dishonest, afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something? There's 10 questions. They're all yes or no, except for one question. It says, what could we have done better? Well, I was selfish. I was dishonest. I was not kind and loving. I could have been selfless. I could have been honest. And I could have been kind and loving. It's really just that simple. Now, I'm not here to speak for nobody, but if I am not doing nightly review, what right do I have to say that I'm living the AA way of life? They're telling me what they did. I don't know what I can leave out and still remain sober. So my wife and I do nightly review every night. Do I miss a night? Of course I do. But on average, in a 30-day month, I do nightly review 24, 25 nights. Then it says upon awakening. It says upon awakening. It doesn't say after you wake up, have a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom. Because by that time, I want to kill 3 people at least. My wife might be one of them, you know. But the deal is upon awakening really means upon awakening. As we open our eyes, we thank God for waking us and we ask him, Father, what can we do for you today? Please give us power to do that. It asks you to do that right in the book. And the deal is we start our day like that. I can only get to make one choice a day. I'm going to live a spiritual life or I am not. If I choose to live a spiritual life, everything else will be decided for me. That's why I'm here. Not living a spiritual life, I'd be on my couch right now. I wouldn't have picked up the phone when Mike called because this is a long ride. You know, and I was just getting comfortable. But I live a spiritual life. It says we consider our plans for the day. God rearranges my plans constantly. Thank God that God's plans are always better than mine. There is so much more in step 11. Pause when agitated or doubtful. That doesn't mean for 30 seconds. I've had pauses that lasted 10 years. Really. I mean, I had a pause, and I was talking to someone about it before. My mom died, it's 11 years ago this month. And when she died, I used to always wear her watch. She had a Movado that I loved. It was a men's Movado. And when she died, it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared. But for 10 years, I wanted to buy one right after I didn't have the money, and I prayed on it. No. And And just a couple of weeks ago, I was coming home from vacation. I was with my friend over there, and we were standing in a jewelry store, and there was a beautiful Movado sitting there, and I prayed, and I looked at it, and the guy said, try it on and I did. And then I invited my wife over, because we're partners, and she actually said, well, why don't you get the nicer one? And I bought a brand new nice Movado. I paused for 10 years on that Movado, because I let God run my life. I don't make decisions based on self. Yes, I want a Movado. I didn't have a Movado. Now I have a Movado. Now it's no big deal anymore. Actually, I don't really care. But I love my Movado. And all of it is useless if I don't get up off my knees into step 12. Carry this message. Carry this message. There's only one. I've had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Not as a result. As the result of these steps. That is the only spiritual awakening. I've had many spiritual awakenings. The only one that I need is the vital spiritual awakening, which is as a result of these steps. That's the one that keeps me awake. And then I try to practice these principles in all my affairs. So I don't have affairs anymore. I don't, because when I'm having affairs, I'm not practicing the principles, because I'm married now. But the deal is, people, I don't do well with slogans. So, one of the slogans, who you see here and what you hear here, let it stay here. Think about how stupid that is for a minute. Let's think about that for a minute. You're wasting an hour. Please, who you see here, let's stay here. What you heard here, please take home with you. Because a much more important demonstration of our principles lies ahead of us in our homes, our occupations, and our affairs, which hopefully we're not having. Thanks for having me, guys.